Come on in, school is in session. Welcome to the Frisco Heritage Museum Schoolhouse. This schoolhouse is a replica of what schoolhouses looked like in the late 1800s and 1900s across the whole United States. The one-room schoolhouses were one rooms with one teacher, and the students that teacher taught would be from ages 6 to 16. The one-room schoolhouses did not have heat, air conditioning, electricity, which means no lights either. The lights would be provided by the large windows on either side of the building, and if that light was insufficient, they would have to use candles or perhaps a kerosene lamp. These would be the light sources for the students to do their study. As I mentioned, the schools didn't have electricity for lighting, so they didn't have electricity for air conditioning either. And the way they air conditioned this one-room schoolhouse would be to open up the windows and let a breeze go from one side to the other. Almost every schoolhouse had a picture of George Washington. George Washington was our first president, and in our particular school, we have a flag from the year 1902 because that's the year the railroad came to town and Frisco became a spot on the map. At that time, this gentleman was our president. His name is Theodore Roosevelt. So in a school in early Frisco, you might have had a picture of George Washington and Teddy Roosevelt. The students studied many things that you study in school today. The basics were reading, writing, and what they called arithmetic. Now the reading was done in a McGuffey's reader. These old readers are sometimes used in homeschools today, but they teach morals or lessons for living, like be kind to your neighbors, work hard and you'll succeed, that type of story. They had the story and then questions at the end, which the students could answer. They had another book, which students today probably don't have, and that would be a spelling book. These spellers had long lists of words, and the students got together and worked hard to memorize the words and the definitions, because on Friday each week, the teacher would have what she called a spelling bee, and you would have to spell one team against the other until there was only one spelling champion left. And that was quite an award for the week for you. What they called arithmetic, you may call math, and the teacher did this a little bit differently. She did it in two different ways. She could put the problems on the board for the different grade levels. Remember, she's teaching students from 6 to 16, so she has to work with different levels of students at the same time. Students would have slates, and they could write down the questions and the answers and show them to the teacher. Another method for learning your arithmetic facts would be to recite them in front of this class, and you would have the teacher ask you your math facts. Sometimes this could be a little intimidating. I mentioned there was no electricity, no heating and air conditioning. There was also no running water in the schoolhouse, which meant that there were no restrooms inside this school. The parents, when they built the one-room schoolhouse, also built a small house outside, and this was called an outhouse, and this was where everyone would go to the restroom. Outhouses were about the size of a closet. Maybe you've seen a porta potty at some of the Frisco functions, and that's about the size they are. Another item I have on my desk I wanted to show you is a hickory stick. This was the discipline stick because teachers did have the right to paddle the students in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Or the teacher could just use it to point out things on the blackboard or to tap it on the desk to get someone's attention. The teacher didn't really have to worry about discipline much because the parents and the students were very eager to learn. As I mentioned earlier, there are no toilets inside the one-room schoolhouse because there's no running water. That means there are no water fountains either. The secret to water in the classroom was this large wooden bucket. And some of the students, maybe those 15 or 16, would go out to the well or the creek, fill this bucket with water and bring it back into the classroom. This would be your water fountain for the day. To drink, you would take a ladle or a dipper, dip it in, have yourself a drink, pass it to the next person and they would dip it in and have a drink as well. Now I can tell that you know that means germs are being spread. Of course they were. And parents eventually became aware that that's how germs were spread, so they would send in canning jars or a gourd or maybe their own small metal cups that the students could have just for themselves, and that would save the spreading of germs. We're looking now at the desks the students would have used. These desks have a slight incline to them, so it's easier for the children to rest their arms on the desk when they are writing. The desk also, because it is slanted, has a niche or a trough up here at the top, because if it didn't, the pens or pencils would roll off the desk, and this prevents it. The pencils the student used might have been a little bigger than the ones you have today, and they didn't have pencil sharpeners, and so they would have to sharpen these with a pen knife or a pocket knife. The pens they would use, this is after the time of feathers, would be a wooden base, and then the top would have a sharp point on it, and that sharp point would be what you wrote with. Now to write, you needed ink. Each desk has a hole in the top, and that hole is for the inkwell. If you found that inkwell in your desk, you knew you were going to get to write in pen that day. Now the desk also has a tray underneath. You didn't have many school supplies, but you might have kept your slate in there, maybe your container for getting water, something that you treasured, maybe some marbles that you were going to play with at recess. The desk is basically two parts, and the desk folds up on the bottom because the teacher had to sweep up and clean up as well as teach all of these students. So she didn't just teach, she also took care of the cleaning duties as well. What did the children look like when they came to school? Well, they didn't wear clothes like you wear today. Girls were never allowed to wear pants or shorts or jeans, and boys, you had to wear overalls or coveralls, and this would cover you from head to toe. Your shirt would be up to your neck, you'd have long sleeves and long pants. They were very durable material. And you also, in case your hands got dirty, you would have some sort of handkerchief that you could tuck in your back pocket or maybe in your shirt pocket up front. Girls, again, you had to wear clothes that had long sleeves, high necks, and your dress went down to your boot tops. And you did wear boots, not regular shoes. But your mom did something special for you. She made a little pinafore to go over your clothes. You might only have 3 or 4 dresses in your closet, and you didn't want to have to keep washing them over and over. So she would let you wear a pinafore, and the pinafore would be over your dress. And then if you went out to the barn to gather the eggs, or if you had to pick blueberries or dig up carrots, you could just wipe the dirt on your pinafore and your mom could wash that easily, or you could wash it. Many times the children did a lot of chores around the farm. We have two other items of clothing. The first, boys, you had to wear hats to protect your face from the sun, and it would have a broad brim that would extend over your face. In the same way, the brim extended over the back, so it would cover the back of your neck, and so you didn't get sunburned anywhere. You're covered from the head to toe. Girls, you had something that was very unique. This is a bonnet, and the bonnet would cover the front of your face and give you shade. And then the back of the bonnet has a little tail, and you can tuck that in the back of your dress, and that will keep the sun from going on the back of your dress, and it also keeps that cold wind out. Some days we have very blustery days in North Texas. So that was your attire. When you came to school, you might have brought two other items. One, you didn't have backpacks. If you had anything to carry, you would carry it in your pocket, the boys would, or you might carry something like this. This is just a belt, or you might have a piece of rope, and you would throw the books over your shoulder, and that would be your backpack coming to school. But you didn't have many books. Most of the books were left at school in our one bookcase. But what every student brought to school was a lunch bucket or a lunch pail, and that's where we get that term lunch bucket or lunch pail. Because there's no cafeteria, remember, no running water. So you're going to have your water bucket for your water, but the food you need to bring from home. Any food you brought wouldn't come from a grocery store. It's going to come from your farm. You might have a fried egg on a biscuit that your mom had made that morning. You might have some fruit from your fruit tree. You might have some carrots or strawberries or radishes, anything that you could grow at home. And that would be your lunch for the day. Lunch was an exciting time because you got a whole hour for lunch and recess, and that was your favorite time of day.